why is my rune filled with bolts and gears? Hello Dolon, welcome to episode 3 of Skylanders Ranked, and today I'm talking about Wind Up, so let's get into it. Wind Up was first released in Wave 3 of Skylanders Swap Force in a pack with the Sheepwreck Island, the Platinum Sheep, and the Groove Machine figures, and was released in a single pack 2 waves later. Now let's get onto his moveset. Let's first talk about his primary, which is called Short Circuit. It's just a normal spammy type primary, but it has two very interesting properties, and these are the primary homes on enemies, and also another thing I like to call the Crank Meter. The first property is straightforward, but the crank meter is that meter above wind up, and you can only use the primary if the crank meter is filled up, and if fully empty, it also slows you down. But that's where the secondary comes in, wind up. In addition with damaging nearby enemies, you also wind up the crank meter. The first two upgrades are for a secondary, which are Overcrank Stabilizer and Winding Weapon. The former is a bit complicated. By spamming the secondary button, you can fill up the crank meter really fast, and when full, you can overcrank, which is a super attack of sorts. And Winding Weapon just increases the damage for the secondary and pulls in enemies when using it. The third upgrade is Spring Shot. Wind Up spits out the spring, and on surface, it seems like it wouldn't be a very good attack unless you look at the fact that they can launch enemies up in the air. And with the primary being able to home in on enemies by first attacking with the tertiary and then spamming the primary, you can damage enemies in the air, making them unable to do anything, and that's pretty good in my eyes. But on its own, not the best. Our final upgrade is Power Pistons, which just makes the primary stronger. Now, with that over with, let's get on to the paths. Both of them mainly focus on the primary, but Toy Box also focuses on the tertiary, while Winder focuses on the secondary and improvements on the crank meter. Before we continue, I would like to address that I chose the bomb path, so consider that when I'm talking about the top path. So first, let's check out the Toy Box path. The first upgrade is Symbols, and by holding the primary button, Wind Up releases symbols to attack in quick bursts. From the videos I have seen, this seems like to be a pretty good attack, and if you chose this path, feel free to comment down below your thoughts on it, and if it's viable or not. Our second upgrade, Crash Symbols, just increases the damage, but the third upgrade, Toy Gun, improves the tertiary, sorta. By holding the tertiary button, Wind Up rapidly shoots out suction cups that does moderate damage. Now let's get onto the bomb path, Winder. For the first upgrade, Wind Up Punch, you need to hold the primary like the previous attack, but instead of quick bursts of damage, Wind Up sends out a big old punch that actually has some range. Now, the next upgrade significantly enhances the crank meter. Auto Wind Up lets you fill up the crank meter when taking damage, and Power Crank makes the overcrank more powerful and pulls in enemies. And finally the solution, which is called Spring Loaded Crank, increases the speed and automatically fills up the crank meter while running. But now, let's go over to a new section that I have never seen in ranking videos like this. Welcome to What If Wow Pow. In this section, I come up with a Wow Pow idea and invite you to come up with a Wow Pow idea as well. So, let me talk about what I think would be a good Wow Pow for Wind Up. Basically, the overcrank would be faster and deal more damage, so it's more instantly busted and chaotic than it was. So in conclusion, Wind Up is a super fun Skylander, one of my favorites, if not my favorite. It's a shame that when I first got him, I thought he was gonna be a bad core, but I'm so happy that I was wrong. So in my opinion, he's gotta be a 10 out of 10, because he's the embodiment of a perfect Skylander. So, if you liked the video, feel free to give it a like, and if you want to see more content from me, feel free to subscribe. And if you have any feedbacks or suggestions, please write that down in the comments, because I take every single one of them into consideration. And so, thanks for watching, and see ya. Bye bye!